We all go a little mad sometimes.
Get you.
Here's Johnny.
Hey guys, and welcome back to another episode of Superhost. Uncut. No, I'm kidding. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of The Horror Hour, the show where we discuss, debate, and disagree on all things horror. We're your hosts, George, Ben.
Hi, everyone.
And of course, Yutaka.
Hello.
And this week we are super excited. We are talking all things Superhost, which of course is now streaming over on Shudder. And we are thrilled to be joined by the writer-director, Brandon Christensen. Brandon, hello.
Hello.
And of course, with the cast, we have Osric Chau, who plays Teddy. Hi, Teddy.
Hi.
We have Sara Canning, aka Claire.
Hi.
And we have Gracie Gilliam, aka Becky / Rebecca / Betty Lou 52. So, I mean, I guess we're going to start off asking the general question for everybody. How was it working on this film? You know, it was such a great film. I know it was a small cast and crew. So how was that? And did you guys have any highlights in particular of working on set and with each other? Brandon, I guess I'll throw it to you first.
I had a blast. Of the 3 movies I've made, this was by far the most fun I've ever had. I mean, part of that is the subject, being this hyper elevated performances from these guys and everything. It was just super fun. I mean, whenever you're casting a film of this scope, like, you want to surround yourself with not only talented people, but people that you genuinely like working with, because there's not a lot of money in indie world or anything like that. So there's not, you just want to be having fun and do it because you love it. And so I was super lucky with all 4 of them, that they were just like, they, every day they were happy to work, and every day they were performing their asses off. So, yeah, I mean, this was a total blast for me. It was very fast. It felt like it went really quick, but at the end of it, I feel close to everybody, which is always what I love being able to just reach out to any of the actors and just be like, hey, check in on them, update them on things and stuff like that. So that's kind of the big thing for me.
Brilliant. And what about you guys? I don't know who wants to go first. Whoever shouts the loudest wins.
Who was first brought on? Was it Sarah or Grace?
On the movie, Grace was the last. Yeah. It was Sarah first, and then you, and then Barb.
Yeah.
Oh, I see. So that's like the order we have to answer the question.
Yes, every time.
I agree with everything that Brandon said. It was so fun. It was such a blast. And I think it's a miracle that any film gets made, and to make a film in the thick of a pandemic, the way that we did with such a small cast and crew, and that it was so contained, and we were all just like hanging out on a mountain together in a house. It was so special and so fun, and to feel as proud of the film as I do. It's a really, yeah, it was a really, really fun time. And I think everybody was really on board to make the best film we possibly could. And even though it was quick, we really had room to play a lot. And I'm sure Brandon will probably talk about that later, but I think really worked to finesse the tone of the film as we were moving through it, which was great. It kind of felt like a mad experiment at times, like in the best possible way.
Sarah hasn't seen the film yet, by the way, so let's just get that out there. She's seen parts. Yeah, it's not a good film. She's just like, oh, it's so proud of it.
I'm so proud of the idea I have of the film.
The Sarah cut.
Yeah, in my head it looks good.
I would have been in the exact same spot, except I did watch it. When did I watch it? Today's
Friday.
Friday. Yeah, I watched it.
You were able to watch that movie at all and do Discord? That was not my experience.
I'm gonna watch it again because the Discord was not. It was distracting. It was like the chat was moving so fast. there was a movie in front of me that I was trying to pay attention to because I had to do commentary on it, but I also wanted to read all the comments. But they were going, it was a lot. So I don't recommend it, Sarah. Probably better for your first viewing not to have that experience. But it was. I will say there was a lot of apprehension on this film. It was like the first pandemic project for me. And I was like, okay, do I want to work during the pandemic? Do I want to travel during the pandemic? Do I want to do a lot of these things? And Brandon and Kurt, they were both like, they're very clear in terms of their like, this is the COVID plan. This is what we're going to do. We're going on top of a mountain, not in Vegas, outside of Vegas. It's gonna, and when we went there, it was me, Sarah, and this hotel, except on the weekends where they would have weddings for some reason. But apart from that, it was like just tiny, like just the small group of us. And then when Gracie came in, it was just like we had the whole place to ourselves, except for the weekends when they would throw like 200 people parties.
It's true.
But it was fun. It was such a fun time. We had, I think, 14 people at most on a day, which like
I think so. The Barb Day
had like 3 times as many people. So like the fact that this was a full feature where we had like 10 people on average watching Brandon and Kurt running around like chickens with their heads cut off most of the time. Like everyone's wearing so many hats. Like it really felt like a fun collaborative experience. Like there were moments where we got to throw in ideas. There were moments where we couldn't just because we didn't have the time or resources. They were just, yeah, I know. It felt like felt like summer camp. I often say this about filmmaking. It's like, it feels like summer camp. This really felt like it because we're, this is somewhere where you would probably actually do a summer camp. On top of mountain, beetles.
There was camping there.
Yeah.
There was a lot of camping up there.
There was camping up there. Yeah, but all in all, very, very fun. And yeah, very proud of how he came out. Everything Sarah said, except that I actually saw the movie.
Except he's actually legit.
Yeah, it was such a I kind of got attached to the movie pretty late, and there was a whole week of production that I wasn't there for. So I was going into like a pre-established tone, but like everybody was really welcoming. It was such an intimate experience. Like definitely like Sarah and Osric were fabulous to work with. Barbara too, but that was only 2 days of shooting. Like getting to like play with the scene, and then Brandon is there like watching what happens and then like throwing out ideas and then let's do it again. And that's sort of my favorite kind of style. Like there was no spoilers, but there's a scene where Osric and Sarah are sleeping and I am not in the room. And like I just remember that was the last thing we shot that day, and I remember there was like a lot of giggling going on in general on set, and it seemed really fun. And then like we got to do a shot of just like Brandon just like talking me through like thinking things about them, and this like teary snot drips or like saliva drips going down my face. You're just like, sure, like we didn't think that was what this shot was going to be, but like let's just find it while the camera is rolling. And it really, this movie does not look like the amount of people that shot it. Like it, like less than summer camp, more it's like an actual amount of people that you would go camping with. Like,
Wow.
Like you could like go get dinner at Chili's with this amount of people. Like it was a reasonable amount of people.
Yeah, like day one, everyone knows everybody's name. Small.
Yeah.
Wow. I do have to say and comment, because this made me very happy, even when I saw the trailer and watched the movie, because I really enjoyed it. And we always keep hearing this, that representation matters, but as an Asian American, but getting to see an Asian lead in a horror film, it's not common. So to me, I was so happy to see Osric in this role, because I've also watched you in Supernatural and Legends, but it really, I think that was great. Again, it's very uncommon. So it just, to me, it kind of also elevated in terms of, after watching it, I love the film, but it just gave that extra, it just was more special to me for seeing that. But I think the cast, you all worked so well together, and it was such a small cast, so you guys carried the entire movie, and it worked so well. So I had to throw that out there and just say how much I really appreciated that. And I loved everyone's character, which is why I also have Becky, Betty Lou, just sitting there. Yeah,
Well, I gotta say, like, I definitely appreciate that comment, and like that was one of the big reasons why I'm like, okay, I like height of the pandemic, I definitely want to do this, but I think that like that's more of a Brandon question. Brandon, you had like 2,000 actors from Supernatural to choose from.
Yeah, I know. But only one of them is roommates with my friend, so it had to work out that way. Yeah, there was. I would say there wasn't any conscious effort for that. I just knew Osric from Drea, and she had worked with him on their film Empty by Design. And, he's been in Dirk Gently, he's been in Supernatural, he's been in all this stuff. So he's just a familiar face that I was, constantly aware of, just because even some of the guys on the crew, like the Grip and the Gaffer, Chanston and Alfredo, they have worked with Osric before. And so I talked to Drea a lot. She's like, she loves working with him. She loves him as a person and stuff like that. So, I mean, those are the things that are super important to me more than anything, is just bringing on people that you'll genuinely find, fun to work with, and just build that relationship and stuff like that. And I think that totally happened here, because I love all these people.
Okay, so another one from me, just talking to you, Brandon. Obviously, you've done some fantastic short films. After I watched this is my first film. I have to say that I was introduced to your work, and I loved it so much that all weekend I went back and watched every single one of your short films and both of your feature-length films, which I absolutely love. But yeah, from Flip back in 2009, I just love that end, and made me laugh. To like the Scaredy Cat shorts with your kids that were, oh my god, like you would think they were like full on. Maybe they are, but they were fantastic in that, I have to say. How was the leap from short films moving into like feature length, like Stillborn and things, and how did that the production sort of differ in that way, the process?
I mean, ultimately you're just putting things on a screen, right? So I mean, a short film, it's just going to be the length of time. Osric just did a short film recently, and so he can attest to this. That is just the day on set is pretty much the same. You're just doing it for a longer period of time. And the pre-production, because you've got so many pieces to fit together, there's just more puzzle pieces. So it's like doing a 100 puzzle piece picture for a short film, and then it's like a 10,000 puzzle piece for a feature. So it's kind of like, I say it's like sprinting a marathon, because it's so long. You're not doing a 5K, you're doing a full marathon at that pace. So it's really just sort of, I mean, the hardest part is day one when you get there and you're just like, you look at the schedule ahead and you go, oh, like, how am I physically going to be able to do this? And then before you know it, you're halfway through and you're just like, oh, wow, we're on the back nine now. And it's like, it doesn't, you just sort of fall into a groove. But I mean, ultimately every production is like a vortex. You just sort of lose yourself in this thing. So it's, you just sort of like give yourself up to it, and yeah, it just kind of is what it is. I mean, with the Scaredy Cats things, that was me just like getting 1 or 2 shots a day with my kids, because they have zero patience. So that was a little different. That was the most different for me. They were very challenging to work with.
Yeah, they were brilliant on screen, so you couldn't tell.
So then, well, I'm kind of curious now that it was interesting watching this. Definitely, especially how George also opened it. But I loved seeing how we see vloggers in front of the camera versus behind, because it's definitely, some of them have an image to uphold. Were there any inspirations that you chose from for that? Because I mean, I'm not in the vlogging business, so it's very interesting to see that is. I'd be curious to know more about that, because that was just one or two, like, it was a total 180. They're like this one way, and as soon as it shuts down, they're like, okay.
And as someone who did work with vloggers and has done vlogging, I have to say you got it 100% correct, because some of the people I've worked with are insane. Sorry.
I mean, I could touch on just sort of the inspiration for it was kind of like MKBHD, his tech show, which is just very polished, very slick. And then there's the Mr. Beast level of just like in your face, insane, jumpy edits, fast text on the screen, stuff like that. I was trying to combine those two a little bit, especially in the opening with like the smooth intro and stuff like that. But Yeah, I mean, that's the hardest part about this, is that you've got these people that are projecting themselves as this thing, and then when you shut it down, you have to have that contrast between super likable, super high, and then the lower kind of more realism thing. And I think that, you know, the challenge then just becomes, how do we make some, you know, the audience care for these people who are not what they're presenting themselves as. But I think that goes through the entire thing, because like Rebecca comes in and she is not who she's portraying herself as, so everybody's wearing this face, and you know, you just want to make sure that the person behind the mask is also someone that you can either root for or at least empathize with. So yeah, I mean, I don't know, performance wise, if you guys want to talk about that, because you had to elevate.
I think that was the hardest thing for me, and I think for both of us.
For both of us, yeah. We were actually sharing. We found some vlogging couples that we would watch and we would pass on to each other, of just like, look at these two people. And I think you know, it's so important to not. I think anyway, as an actor, is to have that empathy that Brandon is talking about from an audience perspective. Like, we need to have that for our characters. And I find that world overwhelming and confusing, like personally. So it was really kind of a wild rabbit hole for me, because I don't tend to take in a lot of that sort of vlogging world. But it was really fun to watch those with Osric and just kind of go, right, okay, so what is the dynamic here? And I think he's exactly right in that it was tough, because when we were shooting those moments of doing like the house tour, which was really fun, it was largely improvised, like with Brandon on the spot. And I think Osric and I both kind of felt we were like sweating a little bit.
We definitely do. And Sarah, when you watch the movie, you're going to be actually really surprised that it came together way than we probably think it did.
Okay,
I was actually surprised, which is why I'm like, kudos to Brandon, who knows how to put this stuff together. And who knows, maybe these YouTubers actually feel the same way that we do, and then they're just really good at editing, and then it's like, wow, it feels this way, but it actually looks like this.
I'm sure
when
that's
you were
true.
saying maybe, I thought you were going to say, should we have a spin-off vlog show?
Yeah.
And I was about to be like, yeah, maybe, sure.
And I mean, Rebecca did do her own vlog too at the end, so she did put on that thing. I don't know if how did you feel about doing that insanity? Like, hey guys.
I think that's what's so fun about the movie, is like, you take the uncomfortable psychopathy of the internet in general. Like, the internet is a place where you don't actually know what people are actually thinking or feeling. Like, it is a really psychopathic place. And then you take that to like, but what if there was a real psychopath? That was a part of like finding what kind of false performance Rebecca does as her defense mechanism to get by. Like, well, let's make it based on that. She doesn't like, I my backstory for her was that she wasn't really socialized and didn't like have kind of got taken out of school early. So I think a lot of where she learned to do human emotion was on the internet. And I think that's and I didn't get to see all of y'all shooting the YouTube stuff come together, but I think it really ends up matching good.
It works really well. And yeah, as I say, you can really see, I think it's interesting because a lot of, and it also, there's a lot of sort of, everyone's sort of really realizing now about, that how fake the world of social media can really be. And we also recently got an episode of American Horror Stories where they did one which was sort of like, looking at these crazy American vloggers as well who just play two different. So I think it's really nice to see this, because see everyone's take on these, because I think for a lot of time there are a lot of these people who are on the internet think they're like gods when they're actually just monsters. And it's nice to be able to, for them to, because they take themselves far too seriously. So it's nice to be able to get, to have a time now where we can really, take the piss out of it, as it were, and be like, look, none of this, a lot of this isn't real, like take everything with a pinch of salt. And I think we need that now, especially after 2020, when we were all stuck inside with nothing else to do but watch things on the internet. I think it really, it's a very timely piece, I have to say.
That's why it's good for people to learn how to make sourdough bread and things like that. You gotta take yourself off of the internet at times.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It was definitely a very timely movie. I watched it last night. I had a really, really good time with it. And for me, what I really loved about Rebecca's character was how erratic and unpredictable that she felt. She could feel like she could do anything at any time. So I was wondering, Gracie, if that was something that was improvised, or was Rebecca the same on the page as she is on the screen?
Oh, dialogue wise, not a lot of it was improvised. I guess like it was really just sort of like script analysis as to like for the most of the movie she's trying to get by, and then once like she like really has a plan for how she's going to get out of this, then she sort of gets to the point of comfort where she does the boredom and needing to fuck with people part of her mental illness. Like at the beginning of the movie, she's really just trying to figure out how she's going to get out of it. But once she thinks that she has a plan of getting out of it, and which does eventually switch to a darker plan for getting out of it. But once it's that, then she feels like then the boredom kicks in and the wanting to mess with the people like that. So the erraticness, I think at the beginning is like not knowing what is expected of her and trying to maintain. And then at a certain point, once there's she has a lock-in of her plan, then she can't help herself but fucking with them.
I really loved it. I think when you finally sat down and did the first interview, and I mean, you were so calm, and then that scream. I mean, I remember jolting. I was not expecting that. I was like, oh. I mean, I was like, yeah, maybe she's got some issues. And I was like, no, I think she's full on crazy. It's like, this is going to get wild. And I also loved Sarah and Osric, your like the look on your face were like, oh, I think we're in trouble. I mean, it was really just a fun scene. And it's neat to hear it was improvised, because I was also kind of curious about the marriage proposal scene. That was I don't know. It seemed it was interesting, because at that point I was wondering, well, is Claire really with Teddy because she wants to be with Teddy, or is she really just with him to get, the likes, the hits? I was just very fascinated by that scene, because it seemed like she couldn't tell what was real or authentic.
Yeah, go Sarah.
You
were cast first, so you talk first.
We talked a lot about this relationship, and I think it's one of the things that we did a lot of finessing with while we were shooting. It was, important to Osric and important to me too, that it not just seemed like, like this relationship is terrible. It certainly needed to be in an unstable place, and and I think that can be a method of trying to balance out any disconnect in a relationship. Is like, let's take it to the next level, whatever that is. And I certainly do see sometimes online. I really try to limit my social media intake, because I find it quite, I find this film, I find it very timely as well. And it's probably been timely for like a good 5 or 6, 10 years now. And I will see sometimes people that I know making an effort to present extreme vulnerability as part of the realism of what they are building online. And I'm truly kind of baffled by all of it. And I also appreciate that people are trying to create a large space for a lot of people to delve into a huge spectrum of experiences of life, but I do find it, like just, I don't know how I feel about it as a barometer for where we can safely be presenting a lot of these facets of ourselves, or, you know, and it's all sort of constructed in some way. Even the vulnerabilities are constructed. So so that was a really interesting, this is a very long-winded way of saying it. That was a very deep thing to try to work with their relationship. And because I do think it was real. I do believe the relationship was very real, but I believe that Claire, at least, was so caught up in how to best take up space online and to take up the best possible space business wise, that the real things in her life have sort of become so convoluted that I don't think she even can sometimes decipher when the filter's on or off, if that makes sense. And I find that very scary, because I think that's a very real thing for a lot of people.
I think there's a comfortability when you're in a long-term relationship too, where you can start taking the other person for granted. Like, I've been married for 13 years, and which is insane. But just there are times where you just like, it's just so comfortable. You don't even have to think about it. You don't have to work for it. But that is such a key thing, is that you have to continually work for it. So if you are distracted, like right now with the movie coming out in press, like my wife has stepped up and taken care of the 3 kids because she knows she has to. And she knows I'll return and help again sometime soon. But there is just like, I think that Claire right now doesn't have that balance figured out. Teddy loves being with her. And so he's just sort of sacrificing for her and doing it for her. And it is until, that proposal scene was so hard to write and so hard to figure out. There's so many different versions of it, but ultimately it was just both of them couldn't figure out what a genuine moment was anymore. Like Teddy, even though he's kind of the love struck one, he still put down the camera. He's still trying to do the secret video for the viewers. But so when it does happen, she changes her tune right away when she realizes that he's recording, because she's like, oh my gosh, he's doing this, and she's all excited, and he's doing it because he thinks that'll impress her. And it's just this really sad moment that should have been really genuine, and ends up being just this like total confusion between both parties because they don't know how to express themselves genuinely anymore. But yeah, I think that worked out really good. Everybody.
I think the scene after that was so instrumental for me, because I think it's such an easy trope to fall into. But I and that's what we're working towards, is trying to get around that. And so like having a genuine off-camera moment about like, let's actually do this off camera. And that was coming from Claire's side. I think that was really important, because it is so convoluted that sometimes like the people who are in it don't even know if Teddy's really into Claire, and it's true. He's the one that put the cameras on because he thought that would impress her, but that only, that confuses the message. So it's so very, very layered. But beyond all that, that was just a really tough scene to shoot because of the wind and her hair and her sneezing.
It was hilariously windy, and it was. We were laughing our heads off trying to shoot that scene, all of us.
It was one of my favorites. Well, and then of course, I also really enjoyed when Rebecca or Betty Lou was chasing you all. It was so good.
that moment when she pops her head out and she's just like, hi Teddy. This is just fun. It was just perfect. It was just so good.
Yeah, that was really fun stuff. All of the like handheld stuff was so fun because it was just such a weird collaborative experience with the camera, because it's like I'm not holding the camera, but I'm pretending that I'm holding the camera. So there's this like weird sort of like who's leading, who's following dancing thing happening with Clayton Moore, our director of photography, and like all of that stuff going through the woods, like as if I'm filming. That was really interesting stuff. And like, yeah.
Poor Teddy.
Yeah, sorry. I'm not very good at jumping in here with questions, but I know that I would get in some trouble from our listener Destiny if I didn't ask at least one supernatural question. So
It's true.
I'm sorry, but Osric, that set is known for pranks. Were you involved with any of them against the cast?
Wait, Superhost? Did we prank you? Oh, or Supernatural?
Supernatural.
No, I don't prank people. I was the new guy for 6 years. And I always felt like the new guy, and I don't like to rock the boat in that sense. No, it didn't. There was one moment in my second season where I had a water gun, and everyone was like, "You should shoot Brad in the nuts," and I'm like, and like I had this moment, like, should I shoot Brad in the nuts? And like I look at the crew, like props, like set painters, they're like, do it. And then I look over at Brad and he just looks so like sad. He's like, please don't be another one of them. And I'm like, all right, I'm not gonna shoot Brad in the nuts. And then Jared grabs the gun and shoots Brad in the nuts. And then so that was my one opportunity. I joined Team Brad.
Because Gracie, you also popped up in an episode of Supernatural too, didn't you?
Mm-hmm.
How was that as well?
That was so fun. And that was actually something that came about because the casting director knew how obsessed I was with the show and like asked me, like there was like, I was going to be out of town doing press the next week. And he was like, I mentioned that there was a Supernatural audition. I was like, I'm going to be out of town next week. And he was like, can you learn it real fast? And I went out in the hallway and I learned the audition and I ended up doing it. I only worked with Misha, but it was so fun. It was so fucking funny. And like that was just like it was just such a fun job. Like I got to have my leg buried in the ground and have a fake compound fracture, and Misha and I just like kept joking around with the director. Like we were like so we had some ideas about the scene. Like we kind of decided like instead of doing like the written dialogue, we would just like make out. Like I don't know. It was just like it was a real jokey kind of set. It was a really low key, like you can kind of tell what a set it's going to be like by how the set PA greets you. And some shows it's like, so this is a quiet space, like catering can make you anything. And then you're like, okay, what are the actors like on this show? Like, oh, wow. And Supernatural, you show up and you're just like, hey, your trailer's one of those. And it's just like 100 trailers. And you're like, I'll find it. Like the lead of this show must be really chill.
And Sarah, you didn't start in Supernatural, but you did start in Brandon's movie.
I was in
Z.
Supernatural, actually.
Were you? Oh my God, I'm so sorry.
Yeah, everyone was.
Everyone is in Supernatural. Well,
I was.
I did a lot.
You went in Supernatural.
I did a lot of making out.
Oh, really?
In Supernatural.
Really?
I actually did with Jensen.
Nice.
I played an Amazon.
On or off camera?
Obviously. On Brandon. Yeah, no, I played an Amazon. And I think I gave birth within like the gestation of an Amazon was like a day or something.
Oh God.
It was
Checks
very
out.
strange. It was like, yeah, it was really fun. And they were so lovely. It's such a lovely show to be on. So there we are. We were all
So we've
on
got a
Supernatural.
full cast of Supernatural there. But so you also, of course, starred in Brandon's movie Z, alongside Miss Keegan, Connor Tracy, and Jet Klein, who of course is now Marvel's Tommy Maximoff, which is crazy. But how is it working on that film? And then how excited were you, when Brandon said, "Hey, let's do Superhost"?
I loved working on Z, but it was such a dip in and dip out. I was only, I think, on set for 3 days.
I think 4 days, but yeah. I remember. It was 4. It's okay. Continue.
Maybe 4 with wardrobe fitting. Let me get back to my journal. We'll get back to that one. But it was quick. It was quick and awesome. It was, it was really fun. And I was kind of like, oh, okay, bye, I guess. And so we got to spend far more time with this one, which was really fun. Z it's quite a different tone. And it was great. Like Jet was great. Keegan was great. Everybody was great. It was 38 degrees and I was sprinting after a train, Celsius, 38 degrees Celsius. And it was just, I don't know. I think that one of the great things about Brandon's films is that, you just kind of show up and really wild things get done. really quickly. And it just happens. And you know, a lot of the people that Brandon works with, it's the same deal. It's just like nothing feels impossible, and it just feels like, yeah, this is kind of a crazy thing, and we're just gonna do it, and it's just gonna happen, and we're gonna have the best kind of most silly time doing it that we can, and that's that. And yet then you watch the film and it's like, oh, this is horrifying and scary, and you know. So it just, yeah, it was, I guess, a similar, definitely your sets feel similar, even though the films don't feel similar. And they're, Brandon likes to have a good time. So you must have a good time.
Super Chill, right? I think
Yeah.
That was the first thing Brandon told me. He's like, my company's super chill. I like to keep it super chill.
Yeah, that's my sales pitch apparently. He's like, sign me up.
I do have to ask because one of my favorite scenes also too is, well, Barbara Crampton. I mean, she's, a horror icon. I loved the trick, honestly, because I didn't see that coming. I saw the first part and I'm like, and then it was like, oh, just kidding. We're gonna get into spoilers, people, but I was still that was a gruesome death scene. And
it's stabbing. Sarah, you haven't seen it? It's pretty gnarly.
Oh my god.
Whoa.
You just went into it, Gracie. I was just like, just kept going. I'm like, oh my gosh. No, I think she's nope, she's gonna keep going. And I don't know. There was something about that performance at that time. It was so committed. Yeah, it was kind of comical to me just because you could see that it just this delight on her face though. And I don't know. It just was, to me, I was like, this is great. I love this. I rooted for you the entire time. That's how much I'm sorry, Teddy and Claire, but I was just like, I'm rooting for Becky. That's I can't help it. I really am. Just because of how great that that scene was. I was like, I'm all in at this point. I mean, okay. But did you have fun working with Barbara Crampton? And I guess that scene, just how did that scene play out? Because that to me was great.
Yeah, I think that was I guess our kind of biggest day on set, but that was also one of the most fun days on set. Like really, really cool stuff. And I loved getting to work with Barbara. And I feel like a lot of times when I've done like needing to line up something that needs to be CG, like it's the director trying to figure out how to perfectly do it. But with Brandon, who does all of his own, like he was going to be crafting it himself. So he was getting to direct it. And like, just like many, many takes in a row, just like dead face, like lining up the hilt of the knife. And like getting to imagine what it was going to look like, but also knowing that it's the director who's going to do it. Like that was a really cool and individual thing. But yeah, like going over and over again, like reattaching the duct tape to Barbara, like the screaming together, like there's so many ups and downs that we got to shoot that day. And it was really amazing. And it's like Sarah and Osric just like turning on turning on the fear. It's like so great to watch. Like Sarah in particular, just like you're like, it's time to break your heart. Okay, like
yeah,
like you need me to like just like cry about it? No problem.
It's a very professional thing. It just turns on. It's really cool to see because I've worked with some people that they need to build to it. They're like, you give them 30 minutes and they go and build to it. But Sarah's just like, what do you need? Got it. Boom, dials it in. And so, I mean, she did it on Z too, because there's a scene in a bedroom where she's crying and it was like, there's no lead up. It was just boom on. And it was just like, wow, that's really cool. But yeah, that scene was crazy just because it was so long. It's like 7 or 8 pages or something. And we could only do it in one day. And we had to process everyone's makeup into, individually. We had 2 makeup girls that day. That was the biggest day we had on set. But because Teddy and Claire, we could do them first. So we're shooting part of that scene without anything on the other side of the camera. So they're reacting to nothing. and as it happens, like you're always changing things as you go. So we went back and reshot pieces of it while, when we came back, and we're like, oh, well, this would happen here and stuff like that. So it was just, we only had like 6 hours to shoot the whole thing, which is absurd. And then by the end, we were running out of daylight and we hadn't done any blood work yet. So it was just like a frantic, mad dash to get it done, just like, I wish I could spend an hour on that stab thing, because I had, illusions, or I had these great ideas for it, but we did it in maybe like 5 minutes because we just didn't have time. So It was just like boom, 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 gotta go. And that's like everyone's on their best, on their toes and just sort of doing whatever to get it done. But yeah, it just was that was a crazy day for sure. I mean, just like, emotionally for the actors, they're just like, ooh, and they're all over the place. And so, but yeah, I mean, it was super fun. I mean, yeah, go ahead, Sarah.
No, I was going to say it was an ambitious day shot wise for you. You did like 47 setups or something that day, which is like a lot.
Oh, wow.
It's a whole bunch. It's a lot more than sometimes get done like on a general day, like, of like, that's like a few days worth of shots. So I think it was just incredible how efficiently everyone worked on this film, like everybody across the board, because that is, what got accomplished that day was really, really something.
Yeah. And it was one of the last things I edited too, because I was terrified of it. I was just like, I don't know if we have it all, if it's going to be good, if it's going to work. And I just started piecing it, and I was just like, oh wow, okay, this is great. I mean, the actors are so good in it. Gracie, you're so good, and just like you're just turning it on for the camera. You're getting mad. You're faking the screams in Barb's face and all that stuff. But I will say this about Barb. I've kind of worked with those veteran actors before, with like Michael Ironside and stuff like that. And the amount, I mean, not that those weren't great, but the amount of willing to do whatever Barb will do, like with the duct tape, we made double-sided tape so it wouldn't actually hurt her. And she's like, it's not working. Just give me real stuff. So we just did that. And when we were doing the whole stab thing, she had to lay in the dirt and get down. I'm trying to be very gentle with her and stuff like that. And she's like, no, just give me the blood. She's just like, and just like throwing it, gets down, getting dirty. And I was just like, oh man, this is a woman who loves to do this, and even since the movie's come out, like she's pushing it so hard, just, constantly talking about it to people and stuff like that. It's really cool just to see that happen, because, you don't expect that from someone like her. Like you said, she's a horror icon, but there's a reason for that, I guess.
Honestly, again, this is it's such a fun movie. There were so many different emotions that I think as a viewer, like watching, because I will say, yes, in the beginning, I'm like, I'm not sure if I like Teddy and Claire. And then through the course, I was like, and then Gracie just like, when she just flips, I'm like, oh, now I'm kind of rooting. But I did. I think all the cast had a great moment to shine, and that's very interesting to know that. To me, that is my favorite scene, because you just see the fear in everyone else's eyes as it's going down. To know that it was just put together so quickly, but it turned out so. I mean, that hands down, it is my favorite scene of the film.
It is brilliant. And I was going to say as well, I loved the mix of the filming mediums. I know that's what I was going to ask you, Brandon. Obviously, there was a bit of that touched upon in Stillborn, where you used aspects of CCTV footage and things like that. Was that something you were always interested in, mixing sort of film mediums, or?
Not really. That was kind of something that came once I had figured out that these were YouTubers, because the idea started with the host, because of an Airbnb experience I had. And then it was then I saw Creep, and that led me to be like, oh wow, that could be, having a lovable antagonist was such an interesting idea. Like, can I transplant that onto this Airbnb host? And then I had the two characters joining, and I did, when I figured out, oh, they were YouTubers, I was like, that's really interesting, because then we can mix with the formats and stuff like that. I like found footage, but that's not really my style at all. So it was really fun to kind of mix those and try and not overdo it or anything, but just to sort of have that blend and keep it seamless. So you're not ever like, it's used for a reason, not just because. But yeah, I mean, it was fun. And once the YouTube thing, it just became part of the, the DNA of the film.
I'm so glad you mentioned Creep there because I love Creep, and I was thinking towards the end of it, I would like, Joseph and Rebecca to maybe become like lovers,
a power couple,
a power couple, and just take on the forests.
natural born killers.
That would be really good.
That would be, yeah, amazing. But talking about that, then, do you think? I mean, obviously, again, we don't want to give too much away, but the ending leaves it open. Would you be interested in returning to this world in some way, or any of you?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think Teddy and Claire. There is actually an article, and it's like, did Teddy and Claire survive? And it's really funny. I was just like, what? Okay, whatever. But I mean, I didn't go into this thinking that it was like sequel bait or anything. It was just this one-off thing. But online, everyone's like, we need more Rebecca. We need more Rebecca. So I don't know. It's up to Grace. Would she want to go back in there?
Oh yeah,
Gracie.
I would play Rebecca again for sure.
Yeah, like a Rebecca origin story would be so amazing.
I would watch
that'd be
that.
pretty cool.
What happened in South Carolina?
Where did all the rings come from?
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you for bringing that up. I was kind of curious. I'm like, what? I just love the era of just like, well, I want to know her story. I also want to know the story also about the bitch from Draper. I really wanted to know that backstory too. There was so much that I think like in my head, I'm like, I could see a prequel, I could see a sequel. I really actually enjoyed all the characters so much that I would love to have known more about them. That's, again, that maybe I enjoyed the film too much, but I did. I was like, I would like to know what happened. Like, how bad was this B&B? Were there other elements? But
I think that was an experience that they exaggerated, and it was probably part of a falling out with them as a couple, and that's why they changed the tone of their channel, and that's why Teddy is so wary of her when she's staying up late editing, because he knows that she's seen that side of her before. So I mean, that was kind of the idea there, was that they're losing viewers because they're not doing that content anymore, and she wants to, he does not, so it's a point of contention for them.
Okay.
No, I like that. And I loved as well. Sorry, Ben, were you going to say something? I saw you were muted.
No. There's background noise, so I just thought I'd shut myself up.
I loved as well the element towards the end when the video is uploaded onto YouTube and all the comments. And I was just it's so funny because it's so true, because you get people that would do something like that, which is clickbait, and you get all these everything now is all the YouTube titles are and entered a shopping center gone wrong, death, murder, and you're just like, all right, let's calm down. So I really liked the take on social media. I think, as I say, it worked really
it's like
well.
Sarah gave up everything for these viewers that don't give a shit about her. They're just like, she had this great thing with Teddy, and she just put so much of her focus into her channel instead, and the moment she needs these people, they're not there for her. So it's
pretty Shakespearean, actually. Like, that's like Shakespearean tragedy. Like, seriously. That's
Called you Shakespeare, Brandon. Good job on that script.
People have been saying this for years. I didn't agree. Now I'm starting to understand it. I get it now.
Well, then I guess what else is there, apart from this movie, what's everyone else, what's in the future for everybody? What's coming up? What can our listeners look forward to? Obviously, of course, this is the main thing. Please, as we've said before, do not forget to go and stream this movie over on Shudder. If you haven't got Shudder, then you're insane, but please go and do it. It's fantastic. And of course, that's actually something, sorry, Brandon, I wanted to ask you. Both of your previous films are also Shudder exclusive. So what has that been like working with them on streaming?
My daughter just sorry, my daughter just walked in. They're great. Shudder's awesome. They are. What are you doing, babe?
His daughter's very small. She's very little.
She's potty training right now, so it's kind of chaos. But Shudder's awesome. Are you coming to say hello? She's shy. Sorry. Yeah, Shudder's great. I mean, they took Stillborn and they put it out on Mother's Day, and they just got what the film was, and they got the irony there, and they did it again with Z. They put it out on Mother's Day. So, I think it's just awesome that this channel, there is no comedy streaming channel. There's no action streaming channel. You've got like Netflix that does everything, and then you've got Shudder, which focuses exclusively mostly on horror. It's just an awesome outlet to have, accessible to, and while this film wasn't made for them, it was, talked about on set for sure. We're like, this is, it'll probably be a Shudder thing. And so we kind of had a goal in mind for that. But yeah, they're super, they're a small company, but they're so much fun to work with, and they just get horror, so I love being part of their family.
It's great. That, as you say, I think it's so good as well because it's, like you say, there is nothing else like that in a way. Everything else is sort of, I mean, the amount of time you spend on, Netflix and all those other ones trying to look for something because there's too many options. At least I know I basically only watch horror films apart from Titanic and Love Actually. They're the other two films I watch that are not horror. But so for me to be able to have everything in like one space is so cool, from like the old to the new, and I think it's super exciting. So and it's just great to have everyone on there in one space.
I think this is the perfect movie to watch at home. I think like this is definitely a movie to be watched barefoot in your own house.
Or at an Airbnb
or in a rental.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah,
somebody's house.
Well, what was that like then? Finding the right house for this, was that fairly straightforward? Did you have one in mind originally, or was it a case of you had to look around a fair bit before you picked the right one?
I had written the script for another house that was up in the area. It was a very modern, like concrete in the hill kind of looking thing. And the owner and I had met, and I'd scouted it and everything, and it was great. But then he just sort of disappeared on me. So I was just like, oh, crap. And I put out feelers to random people that I knew that had places up there. And my friend was like, oh, I'm up here right now. I'll take some pictures for you. And she took pictures of her house. And I was just like, holy crap, jumped in my car, drove up to meet her. And their whole family was just chilling in the living room with the big windows. And I was just like, I want to shoot a film here. And they're like, okay, sure, that's fine. And I was just like, no, I mean, like, I know you say that's fine, but it is, it's a very invasive thing. And they're like, no, it's totally cool. And I offered them money, and they're like, just give us half that. And I was just like, all right, this is great. We're doing this. So I had to rewrite the script for it. But we got super lucky with them. It's always hard to find a house that kind of checks all those boxes, and this one totally did.
Yeah, it was. It's such a cool house. That moment is, say, the open bit where you walk in. Even I was like, I said just before we started, I was like, I would, even if there was a murderous host there, I would stay there because those views were, to die for, if you pardon the pun.
Good use of those cool staircases, both the indoor and the outdoor staircases.
Yeah, it's super weird. It's a weird house. Like the movie only shows like a quarter of it. There's so many rooms in that place that don't make any sense. So you're just like, I don't get what's going on here. But it was great for us because we had room to put stuff, and the actors could hang out if they wanted to, and everything. It was pretty sweet. It was great.
Brilliant. Yutaka, Ben, any more questions from you guys? I'm sorry, I took over there because I got on a roll and got too excited.
It's the YouTube personality. We get it, George.
Sorry. Well, if nobody's got any more, then I have one final question to ask. I hope everybody doesn't mind. And it's the old age question of,
what's your favorite scary movie?
Ooh.
What is everyone's favorite scary
Sarah,
movie? Apart from
you
this,
were
of course.
cast first. Actually, Rebecca, you were cast last. So maybe we finish. We'll work our way back this time.
Do I start?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm head over heels obsessed with the Alien franchise. Every single installment, even 3. 3 are messed up, but like it's still dog-based Alien, like it's quadrupedal, like you can't really see because the animation is bad, but like I still love it. Those are my favorite. Like, I mean, I don't know, like I love The Shining, like that's a great, very suspenseful movie. But I don't think there's scary movies that I like better than any of the installments of the Alien franchise, which really started for me when like I saw the director's cut of Alien for the first time, which is just like, the tension is just wildly different in that director's cut. But yeah, no, I've been revisiting Resurrection and stuff recently. I think there's never been a better time. I don't know if there's a better metaphor out there for this pandemic than like alien infection. Except that I root for Alien. It's complicated.
I saw Alien when I was 6 years old. I know, but that to me is my all-time favorite horror film. So to hear that is so amazing.
I think for me it would be the Ring. It was the only horror movie that like actually traumatized me, and I think I probably because I watched it so young, and then I just had those nightmares for like years after. And like even like the thought of that video still gets me. And I saw the Japanese version as well as the American version, and they both got me. So
Yeah.
I'll probably have to do a rewatch and see if it holds up.
It does.
Oh,
It totally holds up.
It
Yeah.
definitely holds up.
Mhm.
Oh, yeah.
I went to see it 3 times in theaters, and every time I like couldn't watch it. So I was like spending my money to sit in the theater with my eyes closed, basically. I think mine. I want to say several. The Shining, like when I was a teenager, was like huge for me. I also love It Follows. I also love
Great
The Witch.
soundtrack.
Yeah, great soundtrack, and It Follows. But I also love The Witch, like, and they're all very different films, because I like being scared in different ways, you know?
That
I get asked this question a lot. What? Go ahead, Grace.
Oh no, I feel like I should have mentioned the Babadook. Like I'm gonna really regret that I didn't mention the Babadook. Like, come on.
Yeah,
yes.
also excellent.
Yeah. Pretty much every podcast asks this question, and it's always just like, shit. And I never have a good answer for it. But I tend to just fall back on, because I mean, I like different ones for different reasons. But the one that had the biggest impact on me was the Blair Witch Project, which I saw in a preview midnight screening with my cousin in BC. And I didn't know what it was, and he didn't know what it was, but we did watch like the news, and there was, I don't know if you remember the marketing for that film, but they marketed it as if it was real. So they had a website, and it had evidence, it had interviews and all this stuff. And so when I went to see it, I was just like, I thought it was a real documentary. So I watched it. It was a midnight screening. We got out at close to 2. And that night I cried myself to sleep because I was just devastated. I was going in, it was the summer going into the 9th grade. And
Fair.
Oh man. Oh my gosh.
When you make the thumbnail for this, just be like, a bear attacks Gracie Gilliam in the middle of an interview. You will not believe, and it's right at the end too, so they have to watch for it. It's perfect.
Exactly. You won't want to miss this ending.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's actually pretty good.
My heart is pounding.
It's crazy. Well, I think that's the perfect time to finish up then, guys. So we can all be safe. Once again, thank you so much to Brandon, Sarah, Osric, and Grace for joining us today. We had an amazing time. Thank you so much. As always, please do not forget to go and stream Superhost. It's streaming right now on Shudder. You will not want to miss it. It's great. It's great. And I can see, some great things coming from this. It's just amazing. So once again, thank you so much, all of you, for joining us. It's been amazing. And don't forget, you can join us again next week for another special panel that we have planned, where we will be with the cast and crew of My Valentine, which is super exciting, which is one of Yutaka's been
My
talking about
favorites.
this film for a long time.
I won't shut up about it. I can't help it.
But we're super excited to be joined by them as well. Plus, if you haven't already, go and follow our social media. We are at The Horror Hour TV on Instagram and Twitter. And you can also follow our YouTube channel as well. But that just leaves me to say thank you very much once again, guys. Thank you. And yeah, we'll see you next time. Thank you.
Thank you all so much.
Thank you.
You have been listening to The Horror Hour. See you next time.